Hello to my Aurora church family on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It is a gorgeous day, isn't it? I've got to share an experience with you that I had early this week. I pulled up to my pharmacy of choice, pulled into the drive-through area, and the young lady asked pick up or drop off, and I said pick up. And she said, "Your name, please." And I said, "Ed Cooper." And so she was gone for a few moments, and then she came back and she said, "What is that date of birth?" And so I gave it to her. And then she started laughing. And she said, "Oh, Ed Cooper." And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Mr. Cooper, I thought you said Ed kaput." And we both had just an amazing laugh about that. And I said, "You've made my day." And she said, "Well, I just love making my customers laugh." And I said, "Well, you made this one laugh for sure." But as I drove away from there, I thought about that. Boy, there have been days when I have been Ed kaput. You know the feeling. Exhausted. Webster even says destroyed. Unable to function. Kaput. And I got to thinking, too, about all those who surround us. That's where some of them are today, unable to function, weary, exhausted, kaput. Well, there's a word for them as well as for those of us who might find ourselves at that same place. Paul talks about God's grace. And he makes this most remarkable observation. I want you to know something. That God's grace is sufficient. That even in our wearisomeness, in our exhaustion, when we're unable to function, God's grace is more than sufficient. May we know of that grace today. I'm looking forward to this coming Lord's Day when we gather at 9 o'clock for in-person worship as well as live streaming. And I want to thank those of you who've made that adjustment to that 9 o'clock hour. I know that's early, but you have just been wonderful about that change of schedule, and I want to thank you. But this coming Sunday, if the Lord permits, we'll be in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. And we're going to think on something that may sound a little unusual, but this is what Paul calls it, God's folly. That in those verses that we'll be looking at, God's folly is revealed. One translator calls it madness. God's madness. A fascinating text that I think it has something to say to all of us. And so, as we go throughout the remainder of this day and this week, even in the midst of our wearisomeness, our exhaustion, even being kaput, may we truly experience the sufficiency of God's grace. God bless you.